morning, folks. Good morning. Good morning. I'm a little early because I have a tendency to be a little early. We are going to get started with the live streaming at 10 a.m. Eastern. So that's like 4 minutes from now. I just figured I'd log on early rather than just stand here and kind of stare at my computer, which was what I was going to do. So I'm here a little early just to say hello to anyone who is already here, if anyone. And we'll get started here in it will be about 4 minutes. This is recorded. So, folks, later you can skip ahead about 4 minutes, or you can just listen to me as I banter here for the first 3 minutes now until it is 10 a.m. Eastern time and we get started. I am going to be painting, just so that you guys kind of know, and I have this, I'll reorient the camera, but this is the World Dragon. So this is one of my original paintings, and I will be painting it the way I will be for a paint event up here at the studio above the clouds. So we'll be recreating this, and you'll kind of see the way we'll do it for a paint event. I figured the best way that for folks to know what paint events are like is just to show you what paint events are like, and I needed to recreate this anyway. So we'll be doing that live on camera here in about 3 minutes. So that'll be highly entertaining, or not. No, it should be a lot of fun, although I have not recreated this. So it should be, that's why I say highly entertaining, because it'll be warts and all, mistakes and all. You'll get to see it all as we go. But we'll give it a couple of minutes here. Like I said, we've got about 2 minutes for the actual live stream event and the real start time for it. It's 10 a.m. Eastern time. So we'll give a couple of minutes here. I don't want to start early for real for the event. I'll start early just because, like I said, I was kind of standing here just staring at the computer going, when's it gonna start? Because I was ready to rock and roll. So we will rock and roll here very, very shortly. And I'll talk you through how I do this and how I'll do this for the painting events, and we'll kind of go over all the supplies that are available and the choices, because there's a lot of choices you get to make. It won't necessarily look like this, or doesn't have to look just like this when you finish it. So we'll talk about that kind of thing. And we'll do all of that here in about a minute. Looks like it's about 9:59 a.m. Eastern time, of course. And we'll start talking on that here in just a moment. So if you are here and ready for the paint event, go ahead and grab yourself, if you want to grab yourself a tea, a coffee, anything like that, go for it. And let's get started. Let's go. I show that it is 10 a.m. Eastern on the dot. So we are at time. I'm all about being respectful of people's time. Used to do all sorts of webinars and podcasts and events like that. And of course, did theater before everything. And the show must start on time. Used to stage manage and call shows. So all about respecting people's time and starting on time. All right, so this is the World Dragon. That's what I call it. This is an original painting of mine that we are going to recreate, as it will be recreated for a painting event up here at the studio above the clouds, because I run painting events, much like the paint nights that you can do at various studios. Sometimes they have them at bars, sometimes they have them at other facilities and whatnot. I have them up here at the studio. They're confined to, I keep them kind of small, so only 8 people, so that you really have some choice as to what you're going to do. And we can really talk more about technique and how to get the effects that you want, so that it can be a little bit more like a class than just necessarily a painting event. So I do keep them pretty small. And we're going to go over the next one is World Dragon. It's recreating. Oh, and then of course, like I said, they're my original work, so we're not doing like uh a mass kind of paint or mass painting. This is the next one, World Dragon. And so we'll recreate this on, we do it on a little more accessible size canvas, something that folks can finish in a night and feel like, or in an afternoon. Some of the classes are afternoon, and feel like they can really finish. So we're going to recreate it on a smaller canvas. In this case, it's not always a smaller canvas than the original. The last one I did was a bluebird, and it was actually a very small, it was a tiny little canvas, and we recreated it on a larger canvas in that case. But we're going to do this one down onto a smaller canvas. When I do the workshops, when I do the classes up here, I have this stuff set up on an easel. So I'll have it at the other end of the room, and I'll have it up on an easel so that you can see me doing all of the painting as one big group. My preference is down flat on a table. And so this one, since this is my first time recreating this, that's going to be entertaining. I'm going to do it flat down here on this table and sketch it all out and whatnot. I feel like I have something in my eye. So I'm going to do it here flat on the table and focus you down. It's also a lot easier to focus you down onto the table that way so that you can see better kind of what's going on. And then I'll talk you through it as I go. But this is what we'll be recreating. You do have a lot of choices. And that's one of the reasons, again, I like to keep the event small, because you get a lot of choices as we do this. And we'll talk about it as we go, because you don't really have to have this dude. I mean, he doesn't have to look like this at all, frankly. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to look like this at all. He could be kind of a different shape and size if you really wanted to go wild. But if you want to follow along and make him generally look like this, or her generally look like this, when we get to the actual color, to the pigments that we use, you can change that. And so the dragon could be green instead, if that's more your color scheme. The background could be something different that matches your wall or who you want to gift it to better. The world, I call this World Dragon because, of course, that is very blue and green and world looking, looks like Earth kind of. That could be totally different. It could be red and black. It could be bright green. It could be anything you want it to be. So those are the kind of choices that you have as we get into this a little bit more. And we'll talk about that as we go. So rather than belabor it, let's actually get into some action here, and let's start. We're going to start sketching. That's what I do first. And then what you'll hear me say a lot is, and if you watch any of the other painting videos, we start from the background and work our way out. So we're going to sketch, get him laid out where he's going to be, and then we're going to start from the background and we're going to work our way up with this guy. So here we go. I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to focus you all down onto the table so that you all are looking at the paper, the canvas that I'm looking at. And then we're going to jump into it, and we're going to go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So we'll get you kind of lined up. I want to give you a decent view of this canvas. I don't know that I can give you a fabulous view so that you get a good view of the canvas, of both the canvas and the painting. But I think that that's okay. There we go. And I'm going to get a little bit more light. I know it's pretty well lit. The amount of light in this room is pretty hilarious, really, because it is set up for art. So we got some serious, serious lighting. All right. Getting a little light here to get a little bit better set up. There we go. And then I did promise I would show you guys a little bit of what I have here laid out. So before I really get into this, let me give you some idea of what we are dealing with just from a supplies perspective, because this gives you an idea of, hey, if you come up here, when you come up here, ha ha ha, and are messing around, what are you dealing with? What do you have to play with? So here we go. You see, we got a lot of stuff to play with there. You see, we're recording over there on the computer. I've got just a variety of ready brushes. I've got my Sharpie supply here, and I've got more of them actually around behind also. So you see, I've got more Sharpies. I'm a Sharpie fanatic, so more Sharpies. Then I have, these are all watercolor pens. So I've got a whole bunch of watercolor pens. I have got some watercolor pencils. So these will all let you get some really nice hard lines, but then they're watercolor. I really like those. Those are nice. Don't know how much I'll use those in this, but I like those. And then this stuff is also watercolor. So I've got some watercolor palettes just here, just kind of hanging out. I do like watercolors a lot. I've got a little bit of acrylics here. I don't tend to use a ton, but I do like them a little bit. If I need something that's really, really, really opaque, if I need it so that it's really not at all translucent, not at all see-through, I'm going to add probably a little bit of that to it to make sure that it's really, really thick. This is what I use to paint with probably more than anything else. It's Mod Podge. It's glue. And I use gloss, and then I also use the matte depending on what effect I'm going for. And then what I do is I mix that Mod Podge with, and I made the mistake of not bringing it over here because I was using it earlier this morning. Oops, on something completely different. But I use the Mod Podge then to paint in mica powders. And so this is all the mica powder, lots and lots and lots of different colors. And so that's sitting around as well to choose from. And then right over here beside me, I also happen to have some oil paint, but I can pretty much guarantee you we're not going to use it. I don't use a ton of oil. Oops. I don't use a ton of oil in this kind of stuff. I'm very selective about what I use oil in, just because it tends to be, it's more expensive. And it's a bit of a commitment. So I'm very selective about what I use it in. All right. So that's kind of the spread of what we have available here. And now let's get started. Here we go. All right. So we've got our little, darn it. I keep knocking things over. I'm a caution. There we go. All right. So first things first, good old-fashioned pencil. And I'm not even particularly picky about what kind of pencil it is because it's all really generally going to get covered up. So what we do first is really look at our painting and translate that to our canvas in as close a way as we want to. Like, do we want his, in the painting, his tongue is going off the painting. Do we still want that? Do we not want that? Those are all little decisions that you make. I do. I'm going to do this pretty much like the painting itself. So we've got his face here. And then we go down. And you notice my first run is pretty light, even though I am going to cover all of this up, really. But I'm just giving kind of an idea of, okay, that's his general shape. And then that's going to be top nose, top snout. And then bottom snout. I think it's called bottom snout. You can really just treat these. A lot of times, what I find useful is just treating these like basic geometric shapes. So that's a rectangle. That's a rectangle. And then it's not as intimidating if you just start this off. It's like, okay, this is a rectangle. This is this is. And then you can kind of connect them after the fact and do a little erasing. I had an art teacher who tried to convince, he was really big into the no erase, no erase, no erase, no erase if you're a real artist. And he went to the extreme. And that's the problem with extremes. The extreme of if you're a real artist, you don't erase. And that's bullcrap. You erase all the time. Now, I think it's great practice because I had another art teacher and he was fantastic and he had us practice. This was in college, and we would do these drawings where we would do charcoal drawings, and he didn't want us to pick up our hands during the drawings. And that was really good practice to just not pick up your hands, and we were doing figure drawing at the time. That was really cool and that was really different. But the guy who was like, if you're a good artist, you don't erase, that's just a really good way to like convince young people that they're not good artists and to scare people away from art. And that's a really crappy, jerky thing to do. And that guy really just shouldn't even be an art teacher. And he's an asshole. Pardon me. Did I say that? I did say that. I did say that actually, and I'll say it again because that's not cool. You don't say things like that to people when you're teaching art. It is totally cool to erase. It is totally cool to make mistakes. It is fine. Um, and that was a jerky thing, and things like that annoy me when people try to gatekeep and make little rules about what makes people artists and what makes people not artists. All right. IB. And I think that's why people think that they're not sometimes, is because they've been taught by because I was in like high school. And then somebody is like, oh, I'm not an artist. I can't do art because somebody told me when my brain was still developing and I barely knew who I was. And when they obviously needed their brain to develop some more, that I wasn't an artist because I needed to erase something one time. Uh, you can tell that makes me angry. Erase. Your eraser's your friend. It's not a big deal. Also, like, don't be afraid to just accept what's on the paper, which might have been his point, but it's fine to erase. It doesn't mean you're not an artist. You can, in fact, and I have, in fact, painted entirely over old canvases because I just didn't like what was there anymore. And that is entirely acceptable. All right, I like the way he's shaped, so I'm going to go ahead, as you can see, put that in. And he's just, I mean, this is actually a really accessible one of these, just because the shapes are really, this isn't like there's a bunch of triangles on his back. This is basically, let's do his leg here. We're going to do that shape. And then that shape. And I mean, really, this is, you can tell yourself you can't draw a dragon, and then you draw a couple of these. It's just a bunch of weird, funky ovals. And then we do a little detail, and those weird, funky ovals become actual, like, dragon pieces. Let's see. That's the big toe. I want another. How do I want this to work? I want another little toe right here. There we go. That's nice. I like that. And it connects to this guy. This guy is a little funky. There we go. And we're just not real concerned, again, because all of this is going to get basically painted over multiple times. We're just getting some ideas of where these things are. But yeah, see, just boop, 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 boop. Funky little ovals, nothing crazy, but you can already tell it's a dragon leg. And we're going to do the same thing here for the leg on the other side that's holding, let's hold it, bring it up here, across from the neck. We're just going to put an oval, half oval kind of thing. Bam, there, see? And then we're going to do the same thing with this. Let's bring it out here, because yeah, here. There we go. There we go. That's better. There we go. I like that. And then we'll do one claw. That's a claw. And then this is another claw. There we go. That's probably a little better. Claw, claw. We got another one back here that we can just see a little bit of. And then one up here that we can see just a little bit of. And then in here, we have the world, or whatever spherical thing you decide to do. That is, I actually like the placement on this one a lot more, being almost off the page. There we go. You could always use, if you really wanted to get like precision about this, you could use a roundish object in the shop somewhere in the studio, but there's no reason to get that bent out of shape about it. But you're welcome to if you'd like to. We'll go ahead and continue him around here. There we go. Then we'll draw our triangles on the back for spikies. Oh, my spikies. So it really is just some basic shapes, having a little fun. I do like to wrap canvases all the way. So like take it to the edge, take it to the edge. So you see I drew the spike going all, oh, there, drop it, all the way over the edge. So it goes all the way around. But that's the idea. There we go. And then maybe just so that I remember, let me erase some of that there. Erase some of that there. Just so the places where there's not supposed to be lines, they're not there. Okay. So I have myself a decent darkish outline. So I'm going to see well enough where this stuff is. We'll even do this. His tongue I like because it reminds me of the old paintings of lions. And I am going to have it go off here. And then the fork is going to be at the edge. There we go. All right. So in terms of, we don't even need to draw the teeth in. There's no reason, because that's going to be so painted over by the time we get to it. There's just really not a need. But that gives us something to hang our hat on, so to speak. We can see the outline of the dragon. We know it's there. That's not going to get painted over to the extent that we can't see it anymore. And now is when you make the decision of, so what's my background going to actually look like? What color is it going to be? Is it going to be what's in this, which were some golds and bronzes with a little bit of green in there? Or are we going to do something, are you going to go for something completely different now for something completely different? that's a choice you have at this point. And so I think just to show that I am going to do something different, I'll pick some colors that are just a bit different from what we have here, just so that you can kind of see what that looks like um, when we paint it. So I hadn't really decided on what those colors were going to be, so that'll be fun here. Let's go with, let's see, let's do, he's pink in this. Let's do some, I really like that background though. Let's see. This is always the fun part. And this is actually where you can spend some time. Those, okay, what color am I going to make this? There's a sparkle brown red. This is where I started getting into the mica powder as well. I like that a lot for the background. I like it for everything. Let me not lie to you here. I like mica powder. You do have to be careful. I have a lot of air purifiers up here, and you want to be careful with how you don't want to just throw it in the air so that everybody's breathing it, because it's certainly not great to just breathe willy-nilly. That's not good. So you want to be conscious of that kind of thing. Okay. Maybe I lied a little bit. I really like the colors in this, and they're so dragonish that I'm going to end up with some of the same. So I've got a soft bronze gold. I've got a yellow green. I'm going to put this one away. I've got breen, and I really like this one. It's like a brown with like greenish in it. I use it all the time. I'm probably going to run out of it before too long, but this is one I use all the time. And then this one is flash bronze. And so I'm going to use all of these and a little bit of sparkle brown red. So yes, actually going to use all of those to do this background. And that's kind of similar to what I did before, believe it or not. And I'm going to use one of these bad boys. We have several of these in the studio. So just really a matter of maybe waiting your turn for one, but there's enough of them you probably won't have to. So my preference for this is a little bit smaller than I usually work. I usually work on bigger canvases, but I still prefer to just put the mica powder directly on the canvas, kind of where I want those colors to show up. It just occurred to me, I forgot one thing. Hang on. He's standing on something, right? He's standing on something. So let's get his rocky outcropping that he is standing on. There we go. We're going to make it disappear. There we go. So yeah, I like to just put this straight on, and you'll see why in a second. And that's exactly how the original was done. And that's why it has the particular sky effect that it does. So a little bit of that. This is the breen. So this is going to have a slight bit of green to it. That's all right. We'll put that up there. That'll be good on the corner. I don't want to use a ton of it. I think I'm going to put the other bit of it down here. There we go. This is the soft bronze gold. There we go. Put that there. A little bit more here. And then the last is the yellow gold. I'm going to use a little yellow gold here, here. And then the last thing I want, this did actually just happen to be here, but I want a little bit of it. There's some carbon black, and I don't want much of this. Like this is just, you see that? See that? See that? Sprinkles. Like sprinkles. Oh, that was too much. Tiny, tiny sprinkles. Tiny sprinkles. Tiny sprinkles. Okay. So that's our first layer. We got all of that. Since it's the background and not the actual dragon, I'm going to make the choice that I want that to not be I mean, it's going to be shiny because I've got all this mica powder in it. So it's going to be shiny one way or another. As you can see from the original, it's shiny. But I used matte Mod Podge on it because you can tell this is very different than this. And that's because this is glossy and this is matte. And I'm going to make the same decision here. I want the background sky to be matte. And I want as I work my way out, the dragon and the world will be shiny. They'll be the gloss. So I'm going to grab my giant thing of matte Mod Podge. We have a bunch of these around. Just a little bit. It doesn't take much. Doesn't take much. There we go. We can always pour more. This can be a little stinky. It's another reason we keep the shop or the studio very well ventilated. Clay, glazes, all that kind of stuff. Water-based glue. It is permanent, I will tell you that, because none of my clothes have ever recovered from it. Sometimes, if it was a bigger canvas, maybe I should have here. I'll actually drip this directly on the canvas. I will do that here, although it's better to do it with there we go. I know this is all kind of unusual, and this is all why you'll notice I work on a table and not an easel a lot. You can probably see why. And I do have easels, so if you like working on an easel or if you like to go back and forth, depending on what you're doing, and that's something that I certainly do, that's available to you. That's definitely available because that's probably more how I work. I work mostly, unless I'm taking an easel outside to work outside, I work mostly flat on the table because I work mostly like this. And as you can see, this is going to run. So, okay, so I dripped most of this just kind of willy-nilly around, and you're probably like, I thought we were going to learn how to paint. This looks like something my kids would do, and your kids probably could do this, and they would have fun with this. Kids are very free and creative. All right, here we go, folks. Here we go. I'm going to start up here, and we do have to work pretty quick now because the glue will start to dry, and we don't like the effects once it starts to dry so much. Don't forget to go around the edge, and we're just going to go real quickly back and forth here. Smear, smear, smear. Get some nice color. Smear, 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 smear. I'm not going to worry too much that we go into the dragon because this is all translucent, so none of things going to be so dark that or it's unlikely to be so dark that we can't see through it. Make sure the edges get done really nicely. Edge, 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 edge. That's a lot of glue. I have a tendency to do that. If you watched any of these, you'll hear all the time. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of glue. I got to get better at that. All right. This is just flash, 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 flash. Just quick, quick, quick. And I'm not even picking it up when I go back. I'm letting it hit the whole time. Like some classes will tell you, make sure you pick it up. I'm not picking it up. I'm going back and forth, back and forth. And it's hitting it the whole way. Back and forth, 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 back and forth. And again, in fact, I want to run over on the dragon some so that it's clear that the background is the background. That's one of the reasons we start in the back, is so that it is fully the background and that we're not doing it around. And you'll see some pieces I've done where I've either intentionally or unintentionally done things in the wrong order of operations. All right, now yoink. whole way, pull it the 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 whole way, 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 whole way. Make sure we're filling in down here. Feels weird to paint over something you just sketched out, doesn't it? It's okay. Make sure you're filling in all the spots. Any place where there's sky. And then we're just going to make sure that all the brushing goes in the same general direction. There we go. That would appear to be, there we go, something right there. Get rid of that and do one more. All right. I think now basically just needs to dry a little. And so, yes, this is where in class, the best thing to do would be to, hey, take a short break, walk outside, grab a tea. It's beautiful up here. Go sit out in the, I call it the outdoor living room. Drink a tea. We have a little soda making machine, one of those, what are they called? Soda streams. Make yourself a little gourmet soda. Grab a coffee. Go stand out and breathe some air for maybe 5 minutes. This really doesn't need very long. I'm going to plow on. I'm going to keep on keeping. Just because we're recording live, but in a class, this is where you might just wanna, we'd wanna just go, you know what, let's give it 5 minutes, because it's gonna be a little bit better if this dries some, so that we don't mess things up as we move to the next portion of this, because we could very easily, it could happen, but we're not gonna, we're gonna throw caution to the wind here. Another way we're going to go throw caution to the wind is now I have moved on to, in fact, actually, wait, before we do, I was going to move on to the gloss background, which I will do here in just a minute. I'm going to put the gloss down. But before I do that, I'm going to use just a little bit that's left here. I'm all about waste not, want not. You'll hear me say that all the time. I'm going to use this little bit of non-gloss that's here and go ahead and do this rock that he's standing on. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we can move on to everything with gloss from that point on, because the dragon's going to be all gloss and the world's going to be gloss. So let's go ahead. This is dangerous. He is dangerous. Name that musical. Come on. All right. So I'm going to use, this is Glitter Deep Black. I use this one all the time. Just going to pop the top of the, just got a little glue on this and just popped it right in there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And I'm trying to kind of sort of paint this around the feet, just because it does have a little more texture. This is really fun. The mica in particular, the mica and Mod Podge, I really like for creating textures in paintings. And if you've watched many of these, or if you've watched many of the videos I do of me painting, or if you've seen much of the paintings that I do, you know that I really like texture in the paintings. I like paintings, as opposed to do not touch paintings, I like touch paintings. I like to do stuff that's like, hey, walk up there and run your hands over it, because there's stuff going on. And that's how these come out. I think they're nice for kids because they're very tactile. Not necessarily for kids to do, because I think a lot of this stuff is for older kids, maybe teens, late preteens, but some of this stuff can be a little nuanced to work with. And dangerous. I mean, I don't want to overstate like mica or glue or anything, but don't put it in your mouth. Don't like huff it. None of that stuff's good. And so yeah, so like little kids can be a little that can be a little much with some of these particular mediums that we're using. There we go. So that's the first layer for the rock. That was just that mica powder and the glue. And you can see how quickly and easily it just does a really nice, I mean, it already, without a whole lot of work, I'm just doing a little extra black in there now. This is a carbon black. That was a luster black. This is a carbon black. So it's better for a deeper, darker, inky black. But yeah, you see already, we'll let it dry some and then come back and do some shadow highlight kind of stuff on it. But bam, we got a rock. We got a rock. Okay, so we'll put those aside. Now we do the gloss luster. So the gloss, we're putting this down. I'm just going to use the exact same tray that I was already using. Put a little bit more because I know we're going to need more. As you can tell, this has been one that's been very well used. It's almost out. Put this makeshift lid on. All right, so here we go. This stuff is almost, in some places, like right there, I can touch it because it's mostly dry. It really does dry incredibly quickly, which is good because one of the things I want to do here is start getting some of that multimedia into this. And I don't just want to use this Mod Podge, and this gives me a chance to. So let's do this dragon with a little bit more than just Mod Podge. I'm going to yoink in. Yoink is a technical term. Yoink is an art term. I'm going to yoink in one of these brush pens. I love these things. My gosh, do I love these things. This is all just water-based watercolor. I'm going to use it. You can already tell this is going to look a little different. I'm going to use the red. I am going to go red with this guy, probably a little more red than the prior dragon. He was more pink. I think this guy is going to be more red, and I might even do some, well, we'll see. We'll see what it even ends up as. There we go. Now remember, this is a watercolor, so that is important. Because it is going to behave like a watercolor. I would not do this with just a, not in this fashion, with just a pen or something. Although I do all the time, again, multimedia, use pens and Sharpies and stuff similarly to outline things that I definitively, you know, how I did this whole pencil sketch. Well, like I want this eye, no question. So there we go. So that was done with Sharpie. And so that eye, ooh, that was still wet. And that's why that's dangerous. So that is now a Sharpie eye. So that eye is going nowhere. And that's some of the ways that I will draw that line in the sand about where some things are. So we'll draw that on. That's our nice, there we go, pupil. And then I want this dude goes from here. It goes up. Yeah, that's still wet. Yeah, you can see. All right, well, we'll stop there. And this is why we walk away, but that's okay. And then the bottom lip, I do think I'm going to make a little different lip. Dragons do not have lips. All right. And so that gives us something a little bit more definite to follow. But again, we're not totally dry. I do want, let's see here, this dude. Again, watercolor here. And this is where if you preferred like lime green, this could totally be a green dragon. If you liked gold, this could be a gold dragon. There's absolutely no rules on what color dragon, and there's just about an infinite number of different color options here. Just about an infinite number. So you really could go pretty wild with whatever you chose uh, in terms of your final output. And these are just kind of the colors that I'm deciding. One is almost like a background color. As you can see, it's by no means covering up. As you can also see, I've done pottery right where I'm doing this here very recently, so it's a little messy. But as you can see, it's by no means covering up the background, and it's not intended to at all. That's not what I'm trying to do just yet. This is just to give some various background colors to what's going on, and then we'll take it from there. All right, so that is the legs. And see, that's a little wild looking. I'm going to use some of this up in here. And that is because now, here we go. We're going in. Sparklies, well, glossy, sparkly. So we've got some pink. We've got some fabulous red. We've got another really fabulous deep dark red. And this is sparkle mauve, which I also dig. We've got what's called nectarine, which is a bright orange. So we're going to pull it out. We've got what's called glitter deep red, but man, it's a hot pink. It is not glitter deep red. I don't know what they're talking about, but that's all right. We're using it. And then we've got this other kind of pinkish, and then this really light color. So we're going to pull these guys over. So, boo, there we go. We got a whole bunch of stuff. And now we're going to select the proper brush. Make sure it's good and clean. Clean enough. Clean enough. It is not clean enough. What is that black that's in my brush? All right. Now, what's even worse here is I was about ready to do a huge no-no, huge no-no, huge no-no. We actually need to do the world, because if you want to start from the furthest thing away, furthest thing, and then work your way out. And the world, this is World Dragon, is further away than the dragon. So we actually want to do this next. I'll do another green, and I'm just going to do the same thing, green and blue. So we'll do the same. So I'm going to do some blue down in here. And again, I'm using the watercolor pencil here. Got to be kind of careful with it here because it could very easily end up on the dragon. But I'm going to paint the dragon again. So that's how things get kind of cool about that. And that's why we start with things in the background and work our way out. Okay. All right, so there is the idea of a world so far down there. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna grab some bright green and some blue. Keep it simple. Take a little bit of this. All right. That is a nice looking green. Goes all the way around the edge. Now, it's the beauty of covering your table with old cloth. I can just clean my paintbrush on the table, and so can you. And now a little blue. It's a little more blue than I really needed on the paintbrush. We'll go with it. All right, the world. Now we can move on to the dragon. You move these out of the way because I will just knock them over. And so, yeah, now we're going to just dive into the dragon and start. I'm probably just going to start my way from the top and work my way down, both because the world is wet still and because I'm less likely to smear it with my hand that way. Because if I started from down here and worked my way up or anything else, my hand's more likely to wind up smearing whatever I'm working on. But if I start at the top, there's some chance that that won't happen. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start at the top and take a chance that I won't smear. And so I'm going to start with the bright red. I want that really vibrant red at the top. And since it's so small and I don't need a whole lot of any pigment, I'm really just going to do a little bit of this on the brush, a little bit of the Mod Podge, just a little. And then I'm really just tapping it into the color. And that may, I mean, that's enough. Heck, it may be too much, but it's definitely enough. And now I'm just going to paint it right there. My little corner. And then we'll get some more. And some more. Ooh. And we just keep going. And you can see the watercolor also starts to come into play now because it starts to also behave like watercolor, only it's not water that it's, sorry about that, interacting with, it's the glue, it's the Mod Podge. And I like the way it interacts with it a lot. Okay, so we got that little top bit of red. So we're going to move down some, and I'm just going to kind of change color as I move down. I'm going to modify the reds that I'm using as I move down so that the red on the dragon also changes as I move down. So I use this deep burgundy here. You notice I'm not doing the eye that way because I want the eye to stand out in particular. I am going to use this on that little part of its snoz. I'll put a little extra there. One thing you have to remember, or you don't have to remember, it's good to remember. It's a nice idea to remember. with this glue, you don't have to do anything, is that it dries clear. And so what you're seeing, where you see like right there, I don't know how well you can see it. It's, yeah, there's the burgundy, but there's also a white to it. That white's going to be gone. And that's important to keep in mind when you're doing this, is that changes a lot. And that I've learned from working with this a good bit, but that's something that I can kind of help out with, is, the colors they don't change dramatically, but the whiteness goes away because this dries clear. And so you just have to be aware of that. So you saw I used a pink there. I like this pink. It's got the sparkles. Always room for sparkles. I'm going to use a different pink now to go on down the side. And this is just to give it some depth and texture and visual interest. And the other fun thing is that, of course, this Mod Podge is, it does give you the ability to do a lot of texture. And so, like I said before, this can be a very touchable painting, and you can really plan that out of, like, there can be a definitive line at the edge of your creature, like a feelable real line, from the Mod Podge, and your creature can actually be raised some, and I like to do that, have it raised a little bit from the canvas. Yeah, see, I'm just grabbing the colors and kind of the way I sprinkled some. That's one of the reasons you want this to be dry. The other parts is if you happen to drop any of your color, it's nice if the rest of the canvas is dry, because then it doesn't stick. Get this pink. And this orange here. And let's do this. Just wanted this really vibrant, so I decided to just go thick. Now again, you're going to do your legs after you do your body, and so it's okay if you go over on the legs just a little bit, because you're going to paint over top of that. So you see I went over on the lines. That's okay. It's not a big deal. All right. And a little bit more right here. Belly to feel a little darker and yet sparkly. All right. Now I'm going to rinse that because I want more of the orange to show up on the lower lip. I got some water there. All right, I got some of that more orangey mica. Oops, I went outside of the lines there. Not a big deal. A little bit too much glue, so I'm going to get rid of some of it down here. Glue, of course, being Mod Podge. Because these legs are going to be about the same color, so I can just kind of offload some of it. It's definitely watery. It's pretty bright and fun. You could see if you wanted him to be black and blue, you could definitely go with that. If you wanted him to be some sort of sports team themed or college themed or anything like that, favorite colors, that is totally doable. It just becomes a matter of making those decisions when you are first deciding to sketch everything out and committing to the colors. Now we're just want to first fill in on all of this. Don't worry too much about the, oh, sorry, I hit the microphone. The claws. I know it's really tempting to be like, oh no, the claws and the teeth have to be white. That is like the last thing we do. That's like the last piece of this after everything is dry. We will take care of that. But until everything else is in place, we pretend this guy doesn't have claws or teeth. And it needs to be dry for that, or at least really close to it. So that is truly the last thing we do. All right, need to go up here and do the eye now. Could probably choose a smaller paintbrush to do this. And I'm going to go ahead and throw caution to the wind and do this. Could have been worse. Not done yet. Could still get worse. And I like this one to have a lot of texture, like the eye, because that's supposed to be raised. That's actually supposed to be a part of like a dragon's armor. And so this is actually something that I like to try to really make stand up. You see I mixed it over here so that I can kind of gloop it. Again, another technical term, glooping. Kind of gloop it on. And make it stand up a little bit more. And go back down here and put another little bit on because I can still see through that a little too much. See how I can see I don't know if you can see, but I can see the transition of color here just too much. Oh, my little extra light went off. Sorry, you get no extra light now. The package said it lasts for up to 12 hours. That was freshly charged package. Guess it didn't lie because it said up to 12 hours. I wonder under what conditions. Because that sure wasn't 12 hours. That was an hour and not even 14 minutes that it was on. You lie, like front porch hound. Right, making that one fingy stand up there. And then I'm going to make this one kind of stand up a little bit more too. This whole little claw shenanigans. I'm going to do something similar over here. Make it join up with the leg. And the way anatomically want to assume the dragon would. Now I start really getting into the places where I want this dragon to have real depth. I want it to be more visible. I want it to be more textural. And you can start making some decisions about where you want that to be on your dragon. Because color-wise, it's, you know, give or take, it's mostly there. So now it's all about where do you want those really solid lines to be. Remembering that, you know, if it's just white, it's going to be clear, but it will be a really cool, it'll be clear on top of whatever color. I have under it. Okay. Like that's going to be clear, but it's going to be clear on that really fantastic red. There we go. And that just gives it a little bit more pop. Ah, not there. I don't want that there. A little more pop, a little more depth. Feels a little more like it could jump off the page at you, which I dig. Okay, so now we're going to let that do its thing while we jump into the spikes and the teeth. And we're going to hope for the best in terms of, and of course the claws, in terms of dried, because it's time in terms of what we've got to do here today for those to happen. So, okay, so let's decide what color we want the spikes on the back to be. I've got this really cool kind of violet. I don't know what it's actually called, but I like this particular marker really well, this Sharpie. So that's what I'm going to use for the back spikes. Back spikes. So now that I know where they are and I feel good about it, I'm going to go ahead and use this. And then there was one, I do believe, right at the edge. I'm a donkey on the edge. And I probably need to fill this in a little bit more because that's looking a little less than, there we go. That's looking a little less than painted nicely. Fill that in with a little, there we go. Let's clean that up. Check your edges. Check your edges. If you're going to paint your edges. If you're not going to, I say tape them up. But check your edges. All right, so now we do these spikies because I'm not just going to leave them that color. I'm just going to leave them like that. That would be lame. So let's find an appropriate sized, and I have lots and lots of unopened packs of paintbrushes. These are just all the ones that I've opened and effectively destroyed because, you know. All right, here we go. We're going in. So I brought this kind of pinkish. This is what I'm going to use here. I'm not sure I like this paintbrush for this. It's a little big. Now, I'll get it started. And then I'll go for something even. Come on, there was one smaller in here. I know there was. There you are. Get it nice and dry. Or drier. Ah. Put my finger down in the dragon. That's right. And don't panic if you get a little bit on your dragon here that you didn't want. It's okay. Just move on. Don't try to angst and like correct it and get in there too much, because you will almost, while it's wet, almost definitely make it worse. Just accept that it's a little mistakey ache in there and just move on, and then I'll show you how to fix it after it's dry. But if you angst over it and you try to fix it like right now while everything's still wet, you're almost definitely just going to make it worse. So just accept that there's a little mistake there and move on. It's classic that that something like that happens and it's like, oh my god, I have to fix it now. But it's you're just going to make it worse. And I say that because I speak from experience, so much experience. It's like having something go wrong after you worked and worked and worked on something for a really long time and you're emotionally exhausted and you're trying to fix it. Just go to bed. Come back tomorrow. Fix it. You're tired. You deserve a break. It'll still be there. It'll still be messed up tomorrow. Fix it then. Maybe you'll even find you like whatever the flaw is by then. Heck, that's probably more true in art than it is in perhaps other aspects of life. But there have been plenty of times that I have created something, hated it, come back to it later and been like, oh, wait, I don't hate that anymore. In fact, I don't, where is it? There's a painting up here that was categorically one of my just least favorites. I just wasn't terribly fond of it. I call it Winter Moon. And I just didn't like it. I just didn't. And now I don't know why I didn't like it. I really like it. It's an oil painting I did years ago. And I really didn't like it. I remember like not wanting to show it to people and not liking it. And I I really couldn't tell you now what the heck was wrong with me. Like, what the heck was I thinking? Because it's a lovely painting. It's actually one of my favorites now. We'll have it on Memorial Day Memorial Day weekend. We're doing a art fair, and it's going to be one of the pieces that I actually have for sale. Um, but yeah, it's I really like it now, to the point that I'm willing to actually sell it, which is unusual for me. So that happens a lot. You come back to something later and you're like, what was my problem? I was in a bad place or something. I don't know. I had a bad attitude about that. But now I like it. You can see I'm doing the same basic thing with the claws. And I'm not getting, again, just not too bent out of shape about the specific shape of the claws. They're claw-like. And part of that is because I am going to come back in the very, very end and do some touch-ups on all of this. After everything is dry, I almost always come back with a Sharpie and with watercolor pencils. And when everything is dry, I do like a final, all right, where does this need something? And I will do that at the very, very end. Sometimes not even on the same day, because it does need to be dry. Dry. Not the dry that we're doing now, where the world is kind of bleeding into this claw because it's not totally dry. But dry. Because the more times I say it, the more true it becomes. What the heck? Okay. Claws. There we go. All right. So what we've got left now are the eyes and the teeth and the eye. I do want to give the eye more depth because right now it's just flat black and that's super boring. So we are going to give the eye a little bit more depth. But let us really quickly do not really quickly, but let us do the teeth because I think we can do that. We're going to try anyway. We're going to do it anyway. But in order to do them, I need to move this really quick. Because, lay down here. More Sharpies. Look at that. More Sharpies. I'm like a Sharpie commercial up in this piece. I want my personal favorite. How could I even function without it? Where is it? Oh my God. Wait, where is it? There's a white Sharpie in here. Where are you? There you are. Wow. This is one of the greatest inventions. Not really, but it's pretty freaking cool. So we're going to do this. And here we go. Tooth. Oh no, tooth over. Tooth. And it's just a bunch of triangles. Again, basic geometric shapes. And I'm going to follow him all the way back because I want him to have teethies all the way back. He's got some weird little in-between teethies. He's got these guys. He's got crushers. Oh yeah. I'll eat your family. No, I won't. All right. See, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, yet again. And while I'm here doing that, let's go ahead and do his tongue. So let's go ahead and do that too. And I'm going to use a similar Sharpie surprise. It is a little dangerous. I should have done this first. I'm just making sure I see where it goes so that we don't end up with a weird double tongue thing later in the future. We won't. There we go. Ta-da! Tongue. Put that back. And now let's do... Remember, this is just clear. That's carbon black. I do not want carbon black. I would like, there was the luster. Let's see, is this it? Glitter deep black. That's what I want. Tiny bit of it. And boop. A little bit more interest in that eyeball when it dries. Again, remembering that all that white is going to dry clear. And then for the teefies, I have right here, and you don't know, but I'm walking to the other side of the room and back again, there and back again. A Hannah's Tale. I got a little bit of glitter. We're just going to put some plain old glitter on some teefies. Old teefies. And as you can already see, I needed about half as much of the Mod Podge as I actually measured out. My fault. I'm bad about that. That I need to get better at, but I will. All right, there we go. I have a little glitter left, so I'll put a little on this claw. Okay, now it really is a matter of this baby needs to dry. Because after it dries, what we do is come back and we start coming in with final markers and things and doing, I'll do a little touch up line around here with maybe some pink or some orange. I'll do some final touch up lines in here. There's a lot of places where I'll want to just do, again, just some touch up, but I really, really want it to dry first before I get too into that. I do want to, let me hear, and I would recommend this if you were here for a night. Let's give it something to dry and actually give it some texture in here now. Like we got the color there, that's great. But now let's have some fun. By actually giving this something to touch, something to see, something to get involved with a little bit more. That seems like it was a little wet because it all just kind of fell to pieces, but not completely. But it's not quite as thick as I wanted it to be. I do like that. I like that that has the edges. Make sure that all the water is out of this because I really don't need any water added. There we go. That might be a little better. Yeah, that is better. I like that more. And if you wanted to, you can certainly, a lot of times I would continue to add color here. But honestly, right now, I kind of just want this to be pretty happy with the color. I really just want this to have the texture now. I just want this to stand out a little bit more. And so that's what I'm doing here, is just giving it that. And then when I come back after it's all dry, all of this is going to give me that ability to really come in with a little bit of watercolor or some markers and give it that last little bit of detail, that last little bit of pop. Um, to really make it visually interesting. There we go. Then I want to get this just a little bit more. All right, and so that'll give us a little bit more depth there when all of that dries. And again, give us that ability to come in with a little last minute detail that'll just make this a little bit more fun. And that's part of why I like working with the glue, is because of the texture effects. Pardon me, goodness. That it's going to allow at the very end. Do a little bit here because it needs some, just to make it more interesting. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Okay, I think this is probably where this needs to stop while it thoroughly and completely dries. I say that and then I'm like, no, not yet, because I immediately see that we need to do one thing. We will do the tongue. And so in class, what we would do at this point is, and completely dry really only means like, 15 minutes. Um, and this has been an hour and 45 minutes. If we took a real quick 5-minute break earlier, whenever I mentioned it, to let that background dry really well, you saw we were able to really just move forward. Um, but we'd be like an hour and 50 minutes in, and I usually have the how long do I have the art classes last? I just forgot. But I have the art classes last ample time. But it's one of the reasons is so that we can have a little break right here and then come back and add those finishing touches on. Because we would want to just walk away. I mean, if you want to just quit at that point and go home because you're exhausted and whatnot, that's fine too. It is your piece. You can do whatever you want, whatever you want. You can make this look like a cat. You can make it look like a person. It doesn't matter. It is yours. Just like you could make it green, you could make it look however you want. So there's that. But in addition to that, uh, if you do come back in, we'll individualize it. After about 15 minutes, hang out, grab a drink, chill, socialize, commune with other artists. Particularly if you're coming solo, it's a great time to meet other people. If you're coming with friends, it's a great time to socialize with your friends, that kind of thing. But then we would come back in, really just about 10 minutes probably is all we'd break. You can see how quickly this is drying already. You come back in and we do those little finishing touches. We come back in with the Sharpie markers and whatnot. And then you would do your final, which of course is the signing. You always want to sign your pieces. We're not going to do those little final touches on this right now because I'm, of course, not going to make you sit around for 15 minutes, just literally watching paint dry. So I'm not going to have you do that. But whenever I post this, it will have all of those little final touches done to it. So you will probably see some little differences. And there'll be those little things that would be the come back in after the event little things. Like we would come back and there would probably be a little, you'd fill in some in here with some marker. I'm not going to do it because it's still too wet. It'll mess up the marker tip. To do things like that, come back in. This is where a lot of watercolor pencil comes back in, and we do a little detail. We trace around some of these high points with the glue where you can still see it's a little wet, and it makes it stand up. It does stand up, but it makes it stand out. And it looks a lot like scales without having to spend a ton of time doing all the details of scales. But that's when we come back in and do that little bit of work. Again, whenever I post the final picture, it'll be the cover to this video and I'll post it. It'll have all those little final detail things done to it. It just has to dry. But this is what uh, what a recreation kind of sort of looks like. You can see I did it different but the same but different. So he's still drying. I think I might actually like him more, to be honest with you. I like the dark colors. Yeah, I might actually like him more. Darn it. Because I do like the dark colors. I like the world on the corner there. He's pretty cool. He just needs to dry a little bit more. and then I'll do the final touches. But that is what we will make in the next paint night, and it is all stemming from this original. So that's the original. You can make it look as much like that as you would like, or frankly, as little like that as you would like. Um, and like I said, you can go green, you can go all sorts of different stuff. But this is what we did today. And that was an hour and 47 minutes. We've got probably, with a nice 10 to 15-minute break to let it completely dry, we've got probably another, half an hour of detail work and whatnot ish, give or take, left to do. So that gives you an idea of what it looks like to get one of these done. Thank you so much for joining me up here at the studio above the clouds. And I hope to see you up here in one of the actual painting events. This will be the next one. But if this isn't your kind of thing, we have lots of other ones as well. I've got some of birds. I've got got one of a unicorn and a lady. It's one of a very large painting I did of a woman sitting with a unicorn staring off at some pyramids. And we're going to bring it down to this size. I've got another one of a bluebird that we're going to redo. So check out the website, serendipitysellers.com. If you scroll down some, there's the events and classes at the studio, and you can check out whenever these are and get your tickets there. But this gives you kind of an idea of what you'll be looking at. So thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you up here. Have a wonderful day, folks. I am going to let the dragon dry and then put the final touches on. Have a wonderful day.